Hello and welcome to the DecisionWise Engaging People podcast. My name's Charles Rogel. I'll be hosting / moderating our discussion today. Joining me is Dan Deka.
Hello, Charles.
Dan is one of our senior consultants here at DecisionWise. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of customer focus. This comes up in a few spaces when we measure this in organizations, both using our 360 feedback tools as well as our employee engagement surveys, where at the team level, we're trying to measure is the team focused on customer outcomes, good customer service. As a manager, when we're doing a 360, we're measuring items around a manager's focus on good customer service and providing good services to clients. And so today we're going to talk about this as what a manager can do to improve both their team's focus on the customer experience, as well as their own influence on customers themselves. So, Dan, why don't you start us off by talking about this definition? Like, what are we talking about when we say customer focus?
I think the first thing I think about, Charles, when I think about customers is how much I love them. I love customers.
Right?
First of all, they're the reasons that we exist as a business. And, in my coaching practice, when I'm coaching people, I learn so much from my customers. Mm-hmm. Every time I debrief somebody or I'm in a coaching relationship with them, I'm walking away learning about business and about life and about experiences. Mm-hmm. And then the same thing with engagement surveys. When we're working with our customers and our clients, I'm learning about engagement all the time from them. So I think that's probably one of my first starting points is customers are our friends.
Right.
They are the reason that we exist. I love them, and you can learn so much from them. And the interesting thing about that is sometimes we can easily think in very different ways about our customers. Mm-hmm. In fact, avoid our customers because maybe we're afraid to figure out, are we really providing them value? Mm-hmm. And so
they're necessary evil to some people.
Yeah, some people, and you got to be careful about how you speak about customers and that language that you use. Because, boy, if you think positively about them as they really are, the source of your life, your income, your career, that makes a big difference. And then you're more likely to engage with them, literally, to talk with them more and to have stronger relationships.
So then, putting your manager hat on and thinking about how to deal with customers or improve that relationship, what are some better ways, I guess, to think about customers and how you interact?
One practical thing that just comes to mind, and this sounds really tactical, but I encourage people, if we're interacting with a customer and there's a disagreement or a concern that comes through an email, a question that they have, if you can answer it in one email, then that's great. But if you can't, then I would say pick up the phone and call them.
Wow.
Don't send more emails.
Right.
And just to look at that, and that's kind of as a metaphor for how to interact with a customer it's at that level. You want to have more interaction. You want to have a stronger relationship with them, because I think a lot of times we think that everything's going to go perfect, and we have this ideal about how an engagement survey would go or how some project is going to go, how a rollout is going to go. And we have this ideal, but then we have reality happen. And if we have those stronger relationships with our customers, we're going to be able to move through those challenges. And so, I don't know, that's just a quick metaphor around how I think around customers is when something comes up, reach out to them, talk with them, and you're going to learn so much. You're going to be able to resolve their issues quicker, and you're going to be in a much better place.
Yeah. So the opportunities to interact are more valuable. So you should look at it as saying, hey, I've got an opportunity to actually talk to a customer here and create a good experience, so to speak, or strengthen the relationship or create trust or whatever the case is, that you might, not necessarily to leverage in the future, but to maybe use more effectively or be in a better position in the future with them as well.
Yeah, and I think leverage for the future is a good idea too. Sometimes I think people believe that everything's going to go perfectly, and I'm like, I don't believe that. Mm-hmm. I believe that we're going to have things that come up. We're going to have complexities that come up. We're going to have conflict. And all of those things are opportunities to build and strengthen the relationship. So I think you should plan that things are going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
You're probably going to make a mistake. They're going to make a mistake. How are you going to get through that? So let's build that emotional bank account. Let's build that relationship, not with the premise that things are going to go perfectly, but with the premise that life is going to happen. Things are going to come up. I'm going to have to ask things of them. They're going to ask things of me. So let's prepare for that. And we do that by having a stronger relationship.
Yeah, because the relationship makes it easier, essentially, to work together. There's trust. There's a willingness maybe to be more flexible, more practical about solving problems. So you touched on this idea of kind of, what do you do when you're reacting to customers? So there's kind of being proactive and reactive. Explain more, maybe, or do you have any other advice in terms of how to react to maybe a negative customer experience, or a customer comes to you and says, "Hey, I've got a problem." What are some ways, other than prepping, I guess, for that event, to create a good experience for the customer?
Yeah, I think like probably anything in life, it's all we want to do is we all want to be heard. We want to be recognized. We want to be seen.
Yeah.
So when something does come up, a breakdown does come up, just to quickly listen and observe, make sure you understand what the real problem is.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we are interacting with customers, we move so quickly to try to solve it for them. And a lot of times, like other relationships, they just want to be heard. I want someone to hear and to recognize my challenges. So listen, observe, validate what's actually going on. And that sounds like, okay, I can see why you would be really frustrated with this, and then pursue some actions that you could take.
Yeah. So
I think treating them like we would any other friend or loved one, with that type of compassion and that type of thoughtfulness is the way to go.
And I think sometimes when we step into maybe an emotional situation with the customer, where they're upset about a problem or a mistake or something that happened, sometimes it's coming from understanding their perspective and saying, well, why would this person be so upset? Are they feeling like now they're in trouble with their boss? Or did we just make them look bad? Or is this causing them to, feel a lot of stress now because of the problem that's been created? And because sometimes we're like, wow, why are you getting so upset about this small issue? And it really has bigger implications for them in different ways. Or maybe they're kind of thinking it does and it might not. And so you have to be prepared for that. Okay, so then in terms of maybe being proactive in your approach with customers, any advice for managers?
I think like anything else, you don't want them to be an afterthought. You want them to be at the center of everything you do. So I would say my overall mantra would be interact with them early and often and constantly. So you have that relationship, and it's just like anything else. If they're familiar with you, they're familiar with your voice. You're not just showing up when you need something, but you're actually there throughout. I think they're going to trust you more, and you're going to be able to navigate some of the challenges that come up. So I would just say, lean into your customers. Don't avoid them, which sounds so obvious, but when you look and stop at you and look at your behavior, a lot of times we do move away from them.
Yeah.
But I would lean into them, spend more time with them, talk with them frequently, check up with them, and just develop that relationship.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because sometimes, we're so busy dealing with the next customer that we ignore, or we pass up opportunities to be proactive and think of maybe a value add or something that would benefit them. That's available to them for free or whatever. But in some way you're trying to say, hey, how do I kind of build the bank account, so to speak? Definitely. So that we have a stronger relationship in the future.
Yeah, and one more thought that made me think of is, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but a lot of times when a customer calls, we are very reactive. We want to solve their problem so badly that we don't listen to them. And so that is another thing is with customers is, you want to pay all hands on deck when there's something that happens, but you really want to kind of slow down, settle, and let me make sure I understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So that you make sure that you really address what they really need. Because when a customer call comes up, anybody, if your boss says, hey, I'd like to meet you in my office, Charles, could we chat? We all go to like this worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And same thing when a customer interaction, we go like, hey, what breakdown happened? And it's kind of like take a deep breath and listen to what they're really asking for. How can you help the most? What's within your frame and theirs? And then take some action from there. So it's kind of just
they solve it together kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like that. Great. Well, Dan, anything else that you want to add to the discussion today?
I don't think so. Just that they are our friends.
Right. Attitude makes a big difference.
Yeah. And just embrace that relationship and spend time with them, and wonderful things happen from that.
Excellent. Dan, thanks very much. And thanks, listeners, for tuning in. Hope you can join us on our next podcast.